A man delivers a chilling message to a family's front porch camera, moments before he disappears under their house. A family discovers their friendly neighbor has been using a hidden camera disguised as fake grass to plan a terrifying home invasion. These aren't scenes from a movie. They are real events captured on security cameras. Here are 8 true neighbor security camera horror stories. We have a sacred pact with the places we call home. We surround them with fences, we lock their doors, and we trust their walls to keep the dangers of the world out. It's our sanctuary, the one place on earth we're supposed to feel completely safe. Our neighbors are part of this unspoken agreement. 2. There are the faces we see every day, the people we share a property line with, the community we build to watch over one another. We trust them to respect our home, just as we respect theirs. But the steady, unblinking eye of the security camera has revealed a terrifying truth. It's shown us that sometimes the biggest threats don't come from a shadowy stranger miles away. Sometimes the danger is breathing the same suburban air, walking the same sidewalks, and watching us from just across the street. The footage tells a different story, one of obsession, intrusion, and violence that shatters the illusion of safety we cling to. The stories you're about to hear aren't fiction. They're real, they're documented, and they're a chilling reminder that you can lock your doors, but you can never truly know who is on the other side. Story 1, The Man Who Asked Politely. Our first story takes us to Las Vegas, a city of dazzling lights and sleepless nights. But in a quiet downtown neighborhood in July of 2021, a woman named Amanda Nowak was about to experience a kind of terror that had nothing to do with the city's reputation. It was a Wednesday, and Amanda was home alone. The day was quiet, the kind of afternoon where the silence of an empty house is a comfort. That comfort was shattered by a notification from her Ring doorbell camera. When she checked the live feed, she saw a man on her porch. He didn't look particularly menacing. He was dressed in regular clothes and seemed almost lost. But there was an unnerving intensity in the way he leaned toward the camera, his face close to the lens. He knocked, then started speaking, his voice strangely calm, almost polite. He just kept repeating the same questions into the unblinking eye of the camera. Are you sure? Are you positive? A cold dread washed over Amanda. Something was deeply wrong with his placid demeanor, a chilling disconnect between his calm voice and his insistent, bizarre questions. She did exactly what you're supposed to do. She didn't answer the door or make a sound. Instead, she immediately called 911, her heart pounding, as she hid where the man couldn't see her. At the same time, her husband, who wasn't home, also got the motion alert. Seeing the strange man, he activated the Ring's two-way talk feature. Who are you? Her husband's voice demanded through the small speaker. What do you want? For a moment, the man on the porch seemed confused, as if surprised to hear a voice coming from the device he'd been talking to. And then, as Amanda and her husband watched in horror, it was like a switch flipped. The polite, confused facade crumbled away, revealing something monstrous underneath. His voice, no longer calm, took on a flat, menacing tone as he delivered a message that would be burned into their memories. He looked directly into the camera and said, "What I'm looking for is the girl in the house, 'cause I'm going to rape her and kill her." He then added that he had a knife and possibly a gun. The sheer audacity was breathtaking. This wasn't a criminal trying to be stealthy. This was a man openly announcing his violent intentions to a security camera, a direct message of terror. It was a declaration of war on their safety, a promise of unspeakable violence delivered right to their front door. After a few more moments, the man calmly walked away, but the terror he left behind was suffocating. Amanda was trapped in her own home, now a potential crime scene, knowing that a man who had just promised to kill her was somewhere nearby. When the police arrived, they had the footage, but the man was gone. Feeling a desperate need to warn her community, Amanda did something incredibly brave. She posted the chilling video to her Facebook page. It went viral almost instantly, shared thousands of times. The power of social media, so often a source of division, became a tool for community protection. The very next morning, someone who had seen the video recognized the man just a few blocks from Amanda's home. That citizen flagged down a deputy city marshal, and the suspect was taken into custody. He was booked as a John Doe and charged with aggravated stalking, coercion, and obstructing an officer. Amanda later learned the man had a criminal history, a detail that made his calm, calculated threats all the more terrifying. The man was off the streets, but the psychological scars remained. Amanda's home, her sanctuary, had been violated in the most profound way. The front porch, a place for welcome mats and friendly waves, had become the stage for a real-life horror movie. The story is a terrifying example of how some predators don't bother hiding in the shadows. Sometimes they walk right up to your front door and tell you exactly what they plan to do. Story 2, The Grass is Always Watching. Our next story takes us to the manicured lawns of Southern California, where the dream of suburban safety is a powerful allure. For one homeowner, a man named George in West Covina, that dream was about to be dismantled by a discovery so insidious, it sounds like it's from a spy thriller. In April of 2022, George was doing some yard work after dark, watering the hedges that lined his property. It was a routine task on a routine evening. But then he noticed something out of place, a small green light glowing faintly from deep within one of the bushes. Curious, he moved closer, expecting to find a kid's toy or a solar light. But as he parted the leaves, his blood ran cold. The light was coming from a small, dark device with a lens pointed directly at his house. What made it truly sinister was the camouflage. The device was expertly wrapped in a patch of fake grass, designed to blend in perfectly with the foliage, yet it was a spy camera, and it had been watching his every move. Feeling a profound sense of violation, George's first instinct was to disable it. He covered the lens and kicked the device out of the bush, turning it away from his home. He later told reporters, the feeling gave him the chills. He immediately called the police and alerted his neighbors, sending a shockwave through the quiet community. Within minutes, people were outside, frantically searching their own gardens, wondering if they too were being watched. When officers arrived, they confirmed his worst fears. This was no prank. It was a covert surveillance device, strategically placed to monitor his family's comings and goings. The purpose was chillingly clear. Burglars were using it to learn their schedule, to pinpoint the perfect time when the house would be empty and vulnerable for a break-in. This wasn't a crime of opportunity. It was a premeditated plot. The horror wasn't just about a potential robbery. It was the realization that for days, maybe weeks, criminals had been studying his family's life. They knew when the kids left for school, when he and his wife went to work, and when they were away. Their private lives had been turned into a reconnaissance film for a home invasion. This disturbing case, it turned out, was not an isolated incident. Police revealed it was part of a growing, alarming trend. In other communities, like Chino Hills, a camera was found disguised as a flower. In Alhambra, Santa Barbara, and Lost Hills, Other cameras were found camouflaged as rocks and leaves, all planted in the yards of unsuspecting residents. Law enforcement officials believe these are the work of sophisticated, organized burglary tourism groups, many from South America. These aren't local thieves. They're professional criminals who travel to wealthy areas to commit high-value burglaries. They use advanced tech, including these hidden cameras and even Wi-Fi jammers that can disable a home's security system right before they strike, effectively blinding alarms and doorbell cameras. The psychological impact of this is hard to overstate. The feeling of safety in your own home is built on a foundation of privacy, and this camera had shattered it. It transforms the very nature of the threat. The danger is no longer just a locked door. It's the invisible enemy who is already there, hiding in plain sight, patiently collecting data. They haven't stolen a thing, yet they've already taken what can't be replaced, your peace of mind. George's story is a terrifying glimpse into the modern evolution of crime. It's horror by logistics, a cold invasion of privacy that precedes the physical invasion of a home. It serves as a stark warning in a world of increasingly accessible tech. Always be vigilant, check your surroundings, and trust your gut when something seems out of place. It just might save you. Story 3, Santa's Sinister Voice. A security camera is often installed with the best of intentions to watch over our kids, protect our homes, and provide peace of mind. But what happens when that very instrument of safety is turned into a weapon of psychological terror? Our third story from DeSoto County, Mississippi. In December of 2019, shows how a monster can enter a child's bedroom without ever opening a door. A couple, Ashley and her husband, installed a Ring camera in their 8-year-old daughter Alyssa's bedroom. Ashley was a nurse who often worked overnight, and the camera was a way for her to check in on her 3 daughters and feel connected. She'd done her research and felt the device was a safe way to keep an eye on things. For 4 days, it worked exactly as intended, but on the 5th day, that peace was shattered. Alyssa was in her room when she heard strange music start to play, the high-pitched, haunting tune of Tiptoe Through the Tulips, a song famously used in the horror film Insidious. Confused, she looked around for the source of the unsettling melody. That's when a man's voice spoke directly to her from the Ring camera's speaker. "Hello there," the voice said. Alyssa, startled, asked, "Who is that?" The response was designed to be as disarming as it was terrifying. "I'm your best friend," the hacker replied. What followed was a campaign of psychological torture. The voice encouraged her to misbehave, to create chaos. "You can do whatever you want right now. You can mess up your room. You can break your TV. You can do whatever you want." Alyssa, getting more scared by the second, asked again. "Who is that?" the voice repeated. "I'm your best friend." Then it took a truly sinister turn. "I'm Santa Claus." The hacker was trying to co-opt the most magical figure in a child's life, twisting the image of a benevolent gift giver into a menacing, intrusive presence. He continued to press her. "Don't you want to be my best friend?" At this point, Alyssa's fear turned to panic. She screamed for her mother. Her father, elsewhere in the house, heard her and rushed to see what was wrong. As he entered, the disembodied voice continued its torment from the wall. The family immediately disconnected the camera. The silence that followed, likely as deafening as the hacker's voice had been. The horror of what just happened began to sink in. A complete stranger had not only been watching their daughter, but had interacted with her, tried to manipulate her, and terrorized her in her own private space. Ashley was devastated. They could have watched them sleeping, changing. I mean, they could have seen all kinds of things, she later told reporters. The camera she had installed to protect her children had become a window for a predator. The incident wasn't a result of Ring servers being breached, but rather a consequence of credential stuffing. Hackers get usernames and passwords from other data breaches and use programs to try those same credentials on other services like Ring. If you reuse passwords, your account is vulnerable. The family admitted they hadn't enabled two-factor authentication, an extra security layer that could have prevented the attack. But knowing why it happened did little to soothe the trauma. The family's sense of security was destroyed. The very device meant to be a guardian had become a portal for a monster. This story is a terrifying illustration of a uniquely modern horror. A chilling reminder that the cold isn't just coming from inside the house anymore. It's coming from the very devices we trust to keep us safe. Story 4, a digital hate crime. Sanctuary. It's a word we associate with home, a place of peace and refuge. But our fourth story shows how technology can be weaponized to shatter that peace and bring the ugliest forms of hate directly into our most private spaces. This kind of attack is an invasion of the most personal and violating kind. Imagine this scenario, one that has played out in different homes across the country. A family is asleep when they're jolted awake by a voice. It's not coming from outside or from another room. It's coming from the security camera in their living room. And it's a stranger spewing vile, racist hatred. A hacker has gained remote access to their camera system. From some unknown, anonymous location, they can see into the home and speak through the device's two-way audio. They use this power not to make demands, but to launch a barrage of racist remarks, using the N-word and other slurs to torment a family as they lie in their own bed. Think about the disorientation and terror of that moment. You're in your most vulnerable state, asleep, in the dark, and suddenly your home is filled with the sound of pure, unadulterated hate, broadcast from a device you bought for security. There's no one to confront, no door to lock. The intruder is a ghost in the machine. This is a digital home invasion, a terrifying form of harassment where the walls of your house offer no protection. The threat is virtual, but the fear it instills is profoundly real. It's a form of psychological warfare designed to make people feel unsafe and unwelcome in the one place they should feel the opposite. This tactic is part of the same disturbing trend seen in the Mississippi Santa Claus hacking. These attacks often exploit weak or reused passwords, allowing hackers to hijack devices and turn them against their owners. But while the method may be technical, the impact is deeply human. It represents a violation of privacy that is both intimate and aggressive. The living room, a space for family and relaxation, is transformed into a stage for a one-man hate rally. This kind of digital hate crime underscores a chilling evolution in harassment. The perpetrator doesn't need to be physically present to inflict harm. They can project their hate across the internet, using the very technology designed for security as a conduit for abuse. It leaves victims with a lingering paranoia. Is someone watching now? Is it safe to speak freely in my own home? Every connected device, a smart speaker, a baby monitor, a security camera suddenly becomes a potential Trojan horse. The horror of this story lies in its insidious nature. It's not about the fear of a creaking floorboard or a shadow in the yard. It's about the corruption of the home itself, turning a place of safety into a source of anxiety. It proves that in the 21st century, the front line of home security is no longer just the front door. It's the firewall and the password. Story 5, the Dobby of Colorado Springs. Not all security camera horrors involve malicious humans. Some capture things so bizarre, so unexplainable, that they leave us with a different kind of fear, the fear of the unknown. Our fifth story comes from Colorado, from a piece of footage that became a viral internet mystery in June of 2019. It's a story that reminds us that sometimes the most unsettling things are those that defy logic. A homeowner named Vivian Gomez was getting ready for the day when she decided to check her security footage from the night before. She wasn't looking for anything in particular, just doing a routine check. But what she saw on her screen made her stop in her tracks. The grainy black and white footage from her driveway camera showed something truly strange. A small stick-like figure with skinny legs and large floppy ears suddenly walks into the frame. It moves with a jerky, unnatural gait, flapping its arms in a motion that looks a lot like a chicken dance, before continuing on its way and disappearing. The whole thing lasts only about 10 seconds, but the image is so peculiar that it's impossible to forget. The creature, for lack of a better word, had a striking resemblance to Dobby, the house elf from the Harry Potter series, and the name stuck. Stunned, Vivian posted the video to Facebook, asking, "Has anyone else seen this on their cameras?" The video exploded, getting tens of millions of views and sparking a global debate. What was this thing? The internet, as it does, erupted with theories. Many people were convinced it was a hoax, either edited or a clever puppet. But Vivian insisted the footage was real. A video analyst who reviewed the clip for the TV show Inside Edition said he saw nothing to indicate it was doctored, though he noted that infrared lighting can create ghostly effects and couldn't explain the figure. Another popular theory was that it was simply a child. Skeptics pointed out it could be a young kid with underwear on their head, creating the illusion of floppy ears, goofing around in the driveway. Vivian's 9-year-old son, Bobby, became the prime suspect. But Vivian was firm, saying she wouldn't have let him play outside in the dark. Bobby himself denied it was him. And even when Inside Edition had him recreate the scene, complete with underwear on his head, the comparison was inconclusive. Adding to the mystery, Vivian said she had 2 other security cameras on her property, but for some reason, neither of them captured the strange figure. It was as if it existed only in this 10-second snippet of time, on this one specific camera. The Dobby footage taps into a primal fear. The horror of the other stories on this list comes from understanding the threat a burglar, a stalker, a hacker. But the horror here comes from its complete lack of explanation. The figure isn't threatening. It doesn't try to break in or cause harm. It simply exists, and that's what makes it so deeply unsettling. It's an anomaly, a glitch in the ordinary world, captured by the indifferent eye of a machine. The debate over the video continues. Is it a clever fake? A child playing a prank? Or something else? Vivian herself has no answers. She admits, "I don't know if it ever will be solved." And perhaps that's the most chilling part. The story of the Colorado Dobby is a testament to the fact that even in our hyper-documented world, there are still things that defy easy categorization, and sometimes those mysteries walk right down our driveways. Story 6, The Silent Witness. Most neighborly disputes are trivial loud music, parking spots, unkempt lawns, but sometimes a neighbor's concern uncovers an unimaginable evil happening just on the other side of a wall. This story isn't about one specific case, but about a pattern that security cameras have exposed time and again, the silent hidden horror of domestic abuse. It often starts with a feeling of unease. Neighbors hear strange noises at odd hours, muffled shouts, and a general sense that something is deeply wrong next door. But what do you do? The fear of being wrong, of overstepping, often leads to inaction. This is where the security camera becomes a silent, objective witness. In several tragic cases, concerned neighbors have reviewed their own camera footage, which happened to capture glimpses of the house next door. The footage doesn't usually show the abuse itself. Instead, it captures the absence of normalcy. It might show one partner who is almost never seen outside. It might capture furtive, strange movements at odd hours. Or it might simply document a timeline of escalating arguments that lends credibility to what the neighbors are hearing through the walls. These small, unsettling details, when pieced together, can turn a vague suspicion into a credible police report. There are documented instances where a neighbor, armed with their own gut feelings and the corroborating evidence from their camera, has made the courageous decision to call for a welfare check. Tragically, these interventions don't always have a happy ending. There have been horrific cases where police arrive just moments too late, only to have the situation erupt into violence at the front door. But in many of those same cases, the investigation that follows reveals a nightmare far worse than anyone imagined: a person being held captive, subjected to systematic abuse for weeks or even months, hidden away from the world. The basement, a spare room, a locked bedroom, these parts of a home can be turned into private prisons. The sounds the neighbors heard weren't just a simple argument. They were the sounds of a person's life being systematically destroyed. These situations highlight the critical importance of neighborly vigilance. The person who makes the call isn't just being nosy, they're acting on a well-founded fear. Without their intervention, the victim's torment could continue indefinitely, their fate unknown to the outside world. It's a stark and brutal reminder of what can happen behind the closed doors of a seemingly normal suburban home. It shows the immense courage it takes to act on your instincts and report potential abuse. And it proves that a home's security camera can sometimes do more than protect the owner. It can become a silent witness for someone who has no voice. Story 7, The One-Man War. A person's property is their kingdom. But what happens when a neighbor decides they have the right to invade that kingdom, not with stealth, but with open, brazen intimidation? Our 7th story is about a slow burn terror campaign, a type of one-sided war that is all too common, documented by the victim's own security cameras. These disputes often start small, but can spiral into something far more sinister. The victim finds themselves the target of a neighbor's inexplicable rage. The harassment is relentless, and it often takes a terrifying turn when a firearm gets involved. Security cameras have captured it all. There's footage of neighbors walking around their own property with a shotgun casually slung over their shoulder, a constant, menacing presence. It's a clear message of intimidation, but it doesn't always stay a message. In multiple documented cases, cameras have recorded a neighbor firing a weapon directly at the victim's property. Imagine seeing a slug from a shotgun embedded in your garden shed tangible proof of your neighbor's escalating aggression. The victim, understandably terrified, calls the police. But this is where the grinding, soul-crushing reality for many victims of neighbor harassment begins. Often, when police confront the aggressor, they simply deny everything. And while video evidence is powerful, if an officer doesn't witness the act, building a case can be maddeningly slow. It becomes one person's word and their cameras against another's. The burden of proof falls on the victim, forcing them to become amateur detectives, meticulously documenting every incident, praying for a piece of evidence so undeniable that authorities will finally act. Feeling emboldened, the aggressor often escalates. Cameras capture them tampering with property, even cutting the cables to the security cameras themselves in a blatant attempt to destroy the very evidence being collected. They're trying to blind the only witness that can hold them accountable. Footage captures them shouting, making threatening gestures, and turning the victim's own yard into hostile territory. Leaving the house becomes an act of bravery. A home is supposed to be a refuge, but for these victims, it becomes the epicenter of their stress and fear. The psychological toll is immense. It's an erosion of safety that leaves you feeling exposed even behind locked doors. This kind of story highlights a frustrating and dangerous gap in how these situations are handled. The pattern of escalation is clear, documented on video, yet the response can feel agonizingly slow. It's a testament to the chilling reality that sometimes the most frightening neighbor isn't the one you don't know, but the one you know all too well. Story 8, When Tempers Flare. For our final story, we look at a phenomenon that security cameras capture with alarming frequency: the shocking speed at which minor disagreements can explode into outright violence. These aren't premeditated crimes, they are spontaneous eruptions of rage, moments where the thin veneer of suburban civility is ripped away. One of the most common catalysts is the trivial issue of yard maintenance. In one viral video, a conflict begins over blowing leaves. One neighbor is using a leaf blower, and some leaves drift onto the adjacent property. What should be a brief conversation instead ignites a firestorm. The other neighbor emerges, words are exchanged, and the volume quickly rises. The argument devolves into shouting, and then, shockingly, one person grabs a broom and starts physically fighting the other. A dispute over leaves has turned into a physical assault, all recorded by a camera mounted on the side of a house. In another case, the conflict centers on the camera itself. A homeowner's camera captures their neighbor approaching, shouting at the device, and then physically attacking it, trying to rip it from its mounting. This is more than property damage. It's an attempt to intimidate the homeowner into blindness. But a long simmering neighborhood tension can boil over into true tragedy. In Ocala, Florida, in June of 2023, a woman named Susan Lawrence had a history of complaining about the neighborhood children, who were mostly black, playing near her home. She made numerous calls to the police, who repeatedly told her the children were doing nothing wrong. The tension simmered for months, a mixture of noise complaints and thinly veiled racial animosity. One night, after another altercation where Lawrence reportedly yelled slurs and threw things at the children, a mother named Ajike Owens went to Lawrence's house to speak with her. Lawrence's response was to shoot Owens through the locked door, killing her. Lawrence later claimed self-defense, but Ring cameras, cell phone footage, and police body cams helped piece together the timeline of this horrific event. Prosecutors rejected her self-defense claim, and she was charged with manslaughter with a firearm. This shows how a series of minor neighborly complaints can ultimately culminate in a senseless death. What these stories have in common is the terrifying speed of escalation. They show how easily a simple request can be interpreted as a demand, a disagreement as a threat, and a conflict as a declaration of war. They are a reminder that the person living next door is still, in many ways, a stranger. You don't know their triggers, their history, or their breaking point. The unblinking lens of a security camera captures this breakdown of social order with cold indifference, serving as a powerful testament that sometimes the most dangerous conflicts are ignited by the ordinary people we share a fence with. The stories you've heard tonight are a chilling look at the dark side of suburban life, a reminder of how fragile the peace we take for granted really is. If these real documented events shocked you, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe for more true horror stories. It genuinely helps us continue bringing you these cases. More importantly, these stories serve as a warning. The comments section often becomes a digital neighborhood watch. If you have ever had a creepy experience with a neighbor, or if your own camera has captured something unsettling or impossible to explain, please share your story in the comments below. Your experience could help someone else. Recognize the warning signs and stay safe. The line between a friendly neighbor and a hidden threat can be terrifyingly thin. As we've seen tonight, the very homes we build to protect us can become prisons of fear, and the people we live beside can harbor the darkest intentions. From the calculated planning of a burglar, to the explosive rage of a simple dispute, to the psychological terror of a ghost in the machine, these true stories reveal a fundamental truth: our safety is never guaranteed. Security cameras are a powerful tool, not just for capturing evidence, but for holding up a mirror to the hidden realities of the world around us. They are our silent sentinels, watching over our homes through the long, dark hours of the night. They remind us to be vigilant, to trust our instincts, and to never underestimate the potential for darkness to lurk in the most ordinary of places. Thank you for watching. Stay aware, stay safe, and always check your motion alerts. You never know what you might find